Welcome back. Today I'm going to try to solve some puzzles on chess.com. The last time I attempted this, I solved 2 puzzles and failed the last one, so my score ended up the same as what I had started at. However, I got a little frustrated at the final puzzle in that video because the quote-unquote solution was just a little bit better than the move I chose. When I went to the analysis board later and I even checked on another site, it's not like the selected move was winning and my move was losing or drawn. My move was significantly winning as well. I think it was plus 3.5 and the winning move was plus 4 point something. So just a very small separation between them. And I still don't think that was fair, but I don't know. I'm going to try some more today and hopefully I won't run into anything like that. And if I do, we'll try to work our way through it. Part of learning how to get better at chess is learning to, control those little emotional outbursts. So anyway, let's click on puzzles. Yeah, 2352 is what I started and ended my previous video at. I am playing with the white pieces, so I have a rook and a knight to their 2 rooks. Looks like they're a little ahead on pawns as well. As always, I will follow my checklist. I will look for checks first. I know I have a check here with the rook on g4. That's not my only check. I also have a check with the rook on f3. I have a check with the knight down here to h1, and I have a check with the knight up to e4. So that's 4 checks. I think those are all my checks. 2 with the rook. Okay, well, let's look at those. If I play here, it's protected by the knight. It's still guarding this pawn. So those squares are all cut off. My king is cutting off those. The knight's hitting this one. The rook will be hitting those 2. That would force their king down here to h2. And then I wouldn't have a follow-up check, would I? Because my knight couldn't, go there to check because the rook is currently there. And my rook couldn't come down here to check because the knight is currently there. Okay, what about this check? That leaves the pawn undefended. And the king would have 2 other legal moves as well down here to g2 and h2. What about the knight checks? Again, keeping in mind that my king is guarding all 3 of these squares on the f-file, so I don't have to worry about either one of those pieces hanging. I could check with the knight on e4, and of course my rook's cutting off those. The knight would be hitting here. That would give the king 3 choices. Checking down here on h1 gives the king 1, 2, 3. Looks like the same 3 choices, the same 3 options. This is the only one that leaves the king only one option. Rook to g4. And that's the first one that I saw, but I have to check all of them. And usually the one that leaves the king the fewest options is the best, but we have to follow it out. What do I play after they go there? It's not like I can bring my king over, I don't think. I mean, maybe I can, but then they can check me. Oh no, then my knight could capture there. Okay, well, what about that? What if they go down? I bring my king over to help defend these squares. They check me. I take their rook. Then their king is restricted to the h-file at that point. What would I do? Guess at that point I could move this pawn, preparing for checkmate. It wouldn't quite be checkmate, though, because their king could still get out. Oh, wow. Okay, is there anything else? Are there any captures? I can capture this pawn, but that looks bad. But then I don't know what's going to happen after that. If this is wrong, of course, as always, we'll go to the analysis board afterward. We'll try to figure out why. Hopefully this is the correct first move. Okay. I think I mentioned pushing the pawn up, but that doesn't help because, again, if I check there, they just come back. So that's not going to be it, I'm pretty sure. The only thing I could come up with is bringing my king, because if there were no pawns, knights, and my opponent's rooks on the board, and it was just their king, my rook, and my king, that would be the next step, is getting my king closer, because I know how to checkmate with just a king and a rook. I don't know what they'll play after that. And I also don't know if that's the right move, but I'm going to move the king to f3, trying to get close enough for a checkmate. Okay, well, they gave away the rook like we thought. I'm almost positive I have to take it. I don't think it makes any sense to try to come after it with the king because then they just bring the other rook. All right, I have to get out of check. As we know, there are only 3 ways to get out of check. Interposing a piece, which I can't right now because rooks and knights don't move those ways. Moving out of, check, or capturing the checking piece. So I think it's capturing the checking piece in this case. Here we go. Oh, and it stopped there. Oh, it always throws me a little bit when they stop. I mean, I'm glad I got it right, but I'm curious as to what we have here. What we had here before the opponent moved is they're in check, and they only have one winning move here. And that's king to h2. They have multiple ways to get out of check, 3 different ways to get out of check, but 2 of them are really bad. As I said, king to h2 for some reason leaves them ahead, even though at that point I could move this rook over and we'd be in the same situation we were before. I'm curious about that. It says I wouldn't, but is that because then they would have time to double the rooks because they wouldn't be in check at that moment? I'm curious about that. If they had played their best move, it does say rook to g4 is among my best moves, okay, but they can immediately attack it with the pawn. Or for some reason play rook to c5. What does that do? I'm guessing that prepares a check here. But since these pieces are all now in the position that we saw in the puzzle, what if they just did something else, like played a5? Does that give me back something here? Yes, and I would want to bring the king. Okay, so the thing was that they had an extra turn if they had gone here first. Okay, but they didn't go there first, and they didn't do their second best move, which is g2. They played what looks like the third best move, which gives me a mating sequence. That's when I played here. Now they have to go to h2. Now I bring my king. And rook to d3 actually was their best move. Okay, that's interesting. And of course I take it. And I suppose the reason the puzzle stopped there is because after this I would have multiple choices. So if they played their best move, yes, I have multiple choices. However, that's a much bigger separation than that puzzle I was complaining about in the previous video. One's mate in 13, rook to g2 check. And the other one, my second best move, rook to g6, is only +6. That's a great degree of separation compared to that puzzle that I complained about in the previous video. But of course they didn't play that. They didn't play their next best move, which was taking this pawn. Okay, now there I would have had two very close moves. All right, I think I understand. I was trapping their king and there wasn't much they can do about it because of where their rooks were over here, not able to get to the action in time. Well, that took over 10 minutes on my end. Next puzzle. Again, let's look at our checklist. We have multiple checks. I have 2 checks with the rook. Well, rooks don't move quite like that. I have 2 checks with the rook. I have 1 check with the queen. I think that's it. If I check here, I'm pretty sure that's bad because they just take it. And then yes, I would have a follow-up, but then they would just get out of check, and I don't know what I would do after that. All right, we had a phone call there. I forgot what I was talking about, but I think what I said was if I check with the rook and they take it and I check again with the queen, then they just move out of check and I don't have anything. Checking with the rook here by capturing the knight, they just capture, but then the knight's not guarding this pawn anymore, which was the problem with the queen check that I hadn't yet discussed. Okay, so let's look at that one. Take the knight with check. They could just get out of check, but if they just get out of check, I suppose I would take one of their rooks, but then the other rook would take mine. So I think I would take this one if they just moved out of check, because that would maybe save my bishop. All right, but I assume they would take it back with the rook, which leaves this check open, but again, they can just move out of check. If they moved out of check to e2, I could check again and win the rook. If they moved out of check to d1, then I suppose I could check here and win the rook. No, they could just go toward it. Wow, okay. But checking here I don't think is good because they just win that. My bishop's hanging. Their queen's down here for some reason. I'm not sure why it moved here. Wait, is their queen trapped? Okay, so it's probably not trapping the queen either. This is tough. It looks like in every situation, I can find a way for my opponent to escape. But this is the only move that wins a piece. Again, if they take here, I check, and I've got a knight and a pawn for their rook. I mean, for my rook, and they're in check. Again, if they come up, then I check and win the rook. But if they come over, I'm not sure. I guess I could check here, but then they get out. No, I could check with the bishop if they went over. I think that's it. I'm gonna try for that. Oh, wow. I'm not sure. I really want to trap that queen because it looks like this way I'm giving up a piece to start, or at least in exchange. But okay, that worked. And then I'm gonna take the pawn on c3. Check. Okay, they came up. Well, that means I win the rook. I'm pretty sure. I thought I was more worried about them moving over, but if I come up, they can't get out this way because of my bishop cutting off both of those squares. And they can't come up this way because my queen's cutting off all of those, so they'll have to go back to e1, and I'll take the rook with check, and then when they get out of check, I'll get their other rook. I think this is simple since they made this move. Oh, and it stopped, of course. Yeah, but what if they had gone there? Would the bishop check have helped? Now, in this game, my opponent was not ahead, but just a little bit, and they should have taken this bishop now, but instead they moved the queen. Who knows why? Okay, taking the knight, we figured that out. They took here. Me taking the pawn. Oh, if they had gone to king to d1, that was mate. Oh, wow. Because my bishop and queen cut off everything. Okay, that's why they came up. So they came up, and, well, like I said, this was obvious. I figured that one out from the beginning. I did not figure out that this was mate. Wow. Okay, well, I'm better at winning pieces than checkmating, apparently. See, that's the problem with this. I didn't even notice that throughout the entire puzzle, is they have checkmate set up. They can checkmate me at any moment if I'm not checking them. That's why I needed to keep repeating those checks. Oh, wow, these are getting tough. And I'm 22 minutes in, and I've only done 2 puzzles. Well, hopefully this isn't a repeat of the last puzzle video I did. Hopefully I'll pass the next puzzle. Let's go. Okay, I guess this is classified as a middle game puzzle. Do I have any checks? The only checks that I see are with this knight. If I check here, I assume they'll take back with either the queen or the bishop, and then I would take back, and then they would take back with the other one. And that would be even trades, right? Well, assuming that they took back with the queen first. If they took back with the bishop first, I would not take, and that would be it. But with my knight out of the way, my bishop is pointed at their f2 pawn, and my queen is pointed at the f2 pawn with their knight out of the way. So I'm wondering if it has something to do with getting rid of both of those knights, and then I would have a checkmate. But if I take that knight, again, they could take with the bishop or the queen. If they took with the bishop, I could put my bishop right here, and of course if they took it, I would have mate. And if they didn't take it, I would get their bishop for free. Okay, but what if I took here and they took with the queen? Then what? What if I put my bishop there first on g4, pinning the knight to the queen, daring it to move, because again, if it moves, I have mate. Maybe it's bishop to g4, threatening to A, win a piece, and B, get checkmate. Oh, I'm not sure. Well, let me follow out the other check. This one, I think they just take it, which keeps the queen from defending this, but then when I take it and they take with the bishop, wait, if I take here, that's a check and it attacks the rook. They could just take it, and I've gotten a pawn but given up a knight, and then I can't take this because my knight's gone, so never mind. What I might play in a game is this, because A, it develops a piece, B, it pins the knight to the queen, and C, it puts another attacker on this piece that I want out of the way, because if that knight moves, I have mate. Sorry, if that knight moves after my knight moves. But if that knight moves here, obviously I would take the queen. And if the knight doesn't move, then I think I have more attackers on the knight than they can muster defenders, because they can't get another defender on here besides those two. They can't bring the king up because my knight's covering that square. Okay, I'm playing bishop to g4. If it's wrong, we'll find out why. What? I forgot to ask what would they play if I played that. I should put that on my checklist. Just a little parentheses at the bottom. Ask yourself, what will they play if you make the move you think is best? They've hopped in here, they're attacking my queen. So if I take this knight, no, that's not a check. If I take the knight with my knight, that's a check. And then what do? Oh, wow. I'm halfway tempted to take with the bishop, because then if they take my queen, no, I was going to say I take their queen, but then when they take my queen, it's a check. That's why the knight's better. I'm positive, but I don't know. This is, if you haven't been following, this is my highest puzzle rating ever. I am playing puzzles that are rated at a strength that I'm not accustomed to. They all feel tough to me. The knight taking the knight on f3 just feels better. It seems better because it is a check, so they can't take my queen. I don't know what they'll do. They might take with the bishop. If they take with the bishop, I'm going to take that too, and then my queen isn't in danger from this knight anymore. And of course, if they take me, I would take them. And if they take with the queen, I still think I'm going to take with my queen. But what if they just move the king, though? What if they just move the king out of check? Then what do I do? Oh, then I would check them and win their queen, maybe. Well, we're about to find out. Well, they took with the bishop. Well, this is the only thing that makes sense, because if not, they get my queen with check. If I take this with my bishop, they take my queen with check. I have to get out of check. Well, not there, obviously, because that would still be check. So I would go here, maybe. And then they would get my bishop, and I would get their... No, I couldn't, because their queen would be there. So I think I have to take it with my queen. Sorry if I was making nonverbal sounds there, but this is really tough. It's frustrating, and I will try harder not to grunt or moan with my microphone turned on. Okay, here we go. Well, now it's easy. Now I just take the queen with the bishop, I'm pretty sure. Okay, well, the last move was much easier than all the other moves. It felt like there were 12 moves, but there were only like 3, right? The theme is bishop pair, and that puzzle's only rated 1982. I thought because of my puzzle rating, I was doing a puzzle rated like 2500. Well, I'm exhausted. It took me 30 minutes to do 3 puzzles, and that's 30 minutes of video time, so I don't know how much time there was when I paused the video to think about it. I'm just going to guess maybe 2.5 minutes the first time and 2.5 minutes the second time, whatever, so probably 35 minutes to solve 3 puzzles. If you're lucky, I've edited a bunch of that out, and the resulting video is something like 8 minutes or something. I mean, I'm probably not that good of an editor, but anyway, thank you for being here. Let me know what you're doing to get better at chess, and I'll see you next time.